Oath Takers. Written by L. Douglas Hogan. Narrated by Jack Chekijian. The dedication reads, "To the American Oath Taker, wherever he or she may be. It was written for you, my brothers and sisters of the oath. Our mutual pledge to this country and its Constitution is to forever uphold its truth, that all men are created equal and are given natural rights. Our pledge to this ideal binds us and reveals in us the true character of America." Foreword. When I received the request from my longtime friend Doug Hogan to write the foreword for his first book, I was a little surprised. Who asks someone who is neither eminent in any field nor well known to write the foreword of their very first book? The point of this thing is, after all, to whet the potential reader's appetite and to draw them into the book, and let's be honest, that is done more often than not by hooking you, the reader, with the celebrity status of the person who wrote it. As I thought about it, however, I realized that this is typical Doug. Douglas Hogan doesn't really do anything in his life for recognition. There's really no reason to believe that his first book would be any different. Douglas Hogan invests himself heavily into everything he does, and everything he does is done for other people, and that's a fact. In any case, he wasn't looking for a celebrity to do this, but rather for the very type of person he wants to communicate with through this book, an average American and an oath taker. In the 2+ decades that I've known Doug, he's been many things. What I've noticed about him, though, is that just about everything he's done, both personally and professionally, has prepared him with a wealth of experience with which to write this book. Douglas is a U.S. Marine. I say is because, as any Marine will tell you, once you earn that title, you're always a Marine. The Marine Corps is actually where I met Doug more than 20 years ago. Like a lot of Marines, I'd say most Marines, in fact, he wasn't there for an easy ride, and he surely wasn't there to get rich. No, Douglas Hogan is a patriot, and at the time, he saw the Corps as the best way available to him to serve the nation and the people he loves. He is the epitome of the Marine Corps motto, Semper Fidelis. He's always been, and I truly believe will always be, faithful. Douglas is also a police officer, out on the streets and doing a job that most of us would rather not have to do, usually while you and I are safe and warm in bed. Doug is the cop that you want to interact with, if you have to at all. He was the guy behind the badge who's concerned about your rights as an American citizen, far more than he's concerned with writing a ticket or making an arrest. Above all, though, Douglas Hogan is a family man. Why does that qualify him to write this book? Well, being a family man myself, I know what a powerful motivator it can be. In fact, there really isn't a better reason I can think of for a man to want to ensure prosperity and security for his country than to be able to pass something worthwhile on to his children. Douglas has spent his entire adult life serving his countrymen. During that time, he's come to realize what many of us are aware of as well. At no time in our American history has our nation ever been in greater danger than that in which we find ourselves now. Integrity seems to be all but gone at every level of government. The bulwarks that have sustained the separation of powers within the various branches of the federal government have been chipped away at until we can almost watch them crumbling before our eyes. Social issues are the hot topics of the day throughout government, at every echelon of government, but the attention is paid to those societal concerns at the expense of the national economy, foreign affairs, and our own national security. The result is a nation in trouble. The real threat is not external, however. There are no hordes massing outside the borders, at least no organized ones, no armies on the march, no coalitions arrayed against us. The threat is far more subtle and far more deadly to us as a nation than those things. The real threat to America today is apathy. Apathy caused by moral decay, by fear, and by frustration. Apathy brought on by a feeling of being powerless to stem the tide. But it isn't over yet. What you have here, my fellow patriot, is a book written by the average American for the average American. This book is a call to return to our American roots, to remember our heritage and birthright. Most importantly, it is a reminder that our oaths are binding, and we have a responsibility to ourselves and our posterity to honor them. Douglas Hogan writes in a style that is both direct and candid. No words are minced. There's no beating around the bush or tiptoeing through tulips. Douglas says what he means, and his incredible passion is ample evidence that he means what he says. It's typical Doug. Jason Tibbett, Gunnery Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, retired. Prologue. I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. Thomas Jefferson. Our Constitution has been under attack in recent years. It has been called outdated and obsolete. There are those in both the front lines and in the rear disregarding their oath and the meaning of our Constitution. Whether it's out of ignorance, or if there's a much more sinister reason, it has to stop. The freedoms of every individual in America is at stake. I am a U.S. Marine, a law enforcement officer, and a security guard. I've been married for 22 years and have 2 children. I've spent the last 20-plus years serving my country in various capacities. I am a man who loves his nation and holds true to its core documents and the deep abiding principles for which they stand. I've struggled, in my own way, to keep up the fight and to protect the precious assets of the doctrines in the U.S. Constitution and the context in which they were written. There are 2 documents in my life that have guided me in the making of good moral judgments and in keeping of good moral values: the Constitution and the Bible, the former being a document being written on the foundations of the latter. Let me premise this note by saying I'm not come to convert you to Christianity through this book. I have deep Christian foundations and am a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, but this is about our future as Americans, and I will be focusing on the issues that undermine our Constitution. I will be addressing the oaths taken by those who defend our America. Those of you who serve on the front lines of oblivion, that place where light collides with darkness, where good is versus evil, that place where the very best of America meets the very worst. I want to address issues within our country that cause great rifts between ideologies that threaten our way of life. I want to call out every American that has ever sworn an oath. You know who you are, and I want to make sure that you have not or will not lose your way. And if you have, you do not embody the American spirit, but have become a part of the problem that is afflicting our country. Return to the path and walk the trails that have been tread before you. They are the paths that our forefathers blazed, the paths that rooted themselves in tyranny and government overreach, but blossomed into liberty trees through the shedding of blood, sacrifice, and all manner of selflessness. The threat this country faces is greater than any foreign invader. It is greater than any military of any land. It is a force equal to that of a great pendulum swinging in the opposite direction. This pendulum is one that threatens America's existence. The scariest part, it swings within the nation itself. Our nation is waning as the pendulum begins its descent in the opposite direction with a force equal to its opposite. I have identified several factors precipitating the downward spiral in which we find our country falling. Each of these factors I will break down into topics. The nature in which these topics will be addressed is dependent upon you, the reader. Within these pages, you will find writings on the history of our country, quotes from our forefathers, the documents that govern our existence as Americans, principles of leadership, the subversion of American rights, racism, hard choices, preparedness, and what is expected of an oath taker. The oath. There are various levels of oath takers. Some of them hide behind the ones that stand at the gate, while others go out and confront evil. The lawmakers, the law enforcers, the active duty military, the correctional industry, veterans, firefighters, etc. Many have sworn an oath to their countrymen that they will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic,